In darkness, with the distant sound of traditional Yoruba drums beating softly, storm brews over the grand kingdom of Ilogo. The palace torches flicker in the wind as a heavy decision looms. In the great kingdom of Ilogo, where the rivers whispered ancient secrets and the hills stood as silent witnesses to the past, there lived a princess named Efumade. She was the jewel of the kingdom, graceful, wise, and deeply spiritual. Her father, King Adeyemi the Just, had raised her to honor tradition, but her heart was drawn to the divine teachings of the great Temple of Light. In this temple served priest Ologbede, a man of unwavering faith, whose voice carried the weight of the ancestors. He was respected, powerful, and deeply admired. But behind his righteous words lay a hidden desire. His heart belonged to Princess Efumade. For years, he watched her grow into a woman of wisdom, her presence filling the temple like the scent of sacred incense. He believed they were destined to be together and that their union would be blessed by the gods. But destiny had other plans. One fateful evening, under the glow of the palace torches, the king announced Efumade's betrothal, not to priest Ologbede, but to Adegok, a brave warrior from a neighboring kingdom. The news struck Ologbede like lightning splitting an ancient tree. He clenched his fist beneath his sacred robes, his heart a storm of rage and sorrow. Had the gods forsaken him? Had Efumade betrayed his silent love? On the day of the wedding, as the drums thundered and the people rejoiced, priest Ologbede stood at the temple altar, his face carved from stone. He whispered a prayer, not of blessing, but of warning. A union not blessed by the divine shall crumble like dry leaves in the harmattan wind. At first, Princess Efumade and Adegok's marriage seemed strong. He was fearless, she was wise, they rode side by side. But the whispers began. Adegok does not understand her heart, the elders murmured. She seeks peace, but he thirsts for war, the market women gossiped. Did she not belong with the priest, the temple followers questioned. And soon, the cracks began to show. Adegok was a warrior, his hands were made for the sword, not for tenderness. He saw love as duty, not devotion. Efumade, though loyal, felt the cold distance between them. The temple doors loomed in her mind. The voice of priest Ologbede echoed in her heart. One night, when the palace was silent, she knelt before the altar. "What have I done?" she whispered. "Is my marriage cursed?" The church elders gathered. The people watched. And then, the verdict was given. Some unions are built by men, not by the gods. Adegok and Efumade must separate, lest their hearts turn to dust. The kingdom was divided. Some rejoiced, others despaired. Priest Ologbede stood in the shadows, his eyes unreadable. Had the gods returned what was stolen from him? As for Efumade, she stood at the temple steps, the weight of her choices pressing on her like an iron crown. Would she find love again? Would she return to the priest? Or had destiny only begun to weave its tale? The temple bells rang, their echoes rolling over the kingdom like a warning from the gods. The news had spread, Princess Efumade and Adegok were to separate. The elders' decree was final. Some wept, others whispered in hushed voices. Adegok, though a proud warrior, stood silent. His honor was bruised, and his pride shattered. "I fought wars for this kingdom," he said, his voice laced with bitterness. "Yet I could not win my own wife's heart." But Adegok was no fool. He had seen the way Efumade's eyes drifted towards the temple. He had felt her distance like the harmattan winds that left the skin cracked and dry. "I will not beg for a love that was never mine." With that, he mounted his horse and rode out of the kingdom, leaving behind a marriage that had been doomed from the start. As the dust of Adegok's departure settled, priest Ologbede stood at the temple doors, watching and waiting. Had fate finally brought her back to him? Efumade, the woman he had longed for, was now free. No longer bound by a warrior's name or trapped in a loveless union. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, casting golden and fiery hues across the kingdom, she made her way to the temple. She walked slowly, the weight of her broken vows pressing down on her shoulders. She found Ologbede standing before the great altar, his expression unreadable. The flickering flames of the oil lamps cast long shadows on his face. You came, he said softly. Efumate swallowed. I came for answers. The priest stepped closer. The gods have already answered. They tore you away from a love that was not meant for you. She met his gaze. And what love is meant for me? For the first time, Olugbede's faith wavered. He had spent years praying for this moment, but now that she stood before him, he saw the doubt in her eyes. Would she ever truly love him? Or was she only here because she had nowhere else to go? The gods had given him what he wanted. But had they given her what she needed? Destiny's final twist. Days passed, and the people expected an announcement. Would the princess marry the priest? Would she stay at the temple, devoted to the divine? But Efumate said nothing. Instead, she withdrew to the palace, lost in thought. The palace walls felt different now, too big, too empty. She had been a wife, a queen, a woman torn between duty and desire. Now, she was simply lost. One evening, as the night breeze whispered secrets to the earth, she went to the temple one last time. Olugbede was waiting, his robes flowing like dark rivers in the candlelight. Stay, he said. You were meant to be here. She shook her head. I was meant to find myself. His breath caught. You belong with me. Her voice was soft but firm. I belong to no one but my destiny. And with that, Princess Efumate turned and walked away, not towards another man, not towards another marriage, but towards a path only she could forge. The temple bells rang once more. Not all love is meant to last. Some relationships come as lessons, others as tests. True freedom lies not in who we choose, but in choosing ourselves. Thanks for watching Buckingham Daddy TV. Please comment and subscribe for more stories.